Commander Mary Phillips stood at the bridge of the U.S. Nightingale, watching as the massive space station of the Galactic Council came into view. The station looked like a giant silver snowflake, with long arms stretching out into space. Bright lights flickered along its surface, marking the homes and offices of 100 different alien species. "Final approach vector confirmed," said Lieutenant Peter Morgan from his station. His fingers moved quickly across the control panel, making small adjustments to their course. "We'll dock in 20 minutes, Commander." Mary nodded, trying to keep her face calm despite the excitement in her chest. This was humanity's big moment, their first official meeting with the Galactic Council. After years of preparation and smaller diplomatic meetings with individual species, Earth was finally ready to take its place among the stars. "Status report on our escort ships," she asked, looking at the tactical display. "U.S. Starlight and U.S. Dawn are maintaining their positions," Peter replied. "All systems normal." The bridge crew worked quietly at their stations, each feeling the weight of this historic moment. Earth had only achieved faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, and now they were about to join a community of species that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. As they got closer to the station, Mary could see ships of different shapes and sizes moving around it. Some looked like giant circles with engines attached, others like crystalline structures that somehow flew through space. Each one represented a different alien civilization, a different way of thinking about space travel. "Commander," called out Communications Officer Linda Carter, "we're receiving a message from the station. They're asking us to hold position." Mary frowned. This wasn't part of the plan. "Put it on screen," she ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing an alien face. The creature had gray-blue skin and large, dark eyes that seemed to shift color like oil on water. Mary recognized it as a Zaxri, one of the oldest species in the Council. "Human vessel," the Zaxri spoke in perfect English, its voice surprisingly deep. "Your approach is premature. The Council must first address certain concerns about your species." Mary exchanged worried looks with her crew. "This is Commander Mary Phillips of the U.S. Nightingale. We have followed all protocols and received clearance for this meeting 3 months ago. What concerns do you speak of?" The Zaxri's eyes shifted to a deeper purple, a sign of displeasure according to their cultural briefings. "Your species' rapid advancement concerns many council members. You moved from primitive chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel in less than 2 centuries. Such progress is unnatural." Peter Morgan spoke up from his station, keeping his voice low. "Commander, I'm detecting increased energy readings from several Zaxri vessels near the station. They're powering up their weapons." Mary felt her heart rate increase, but kept her voice steady. "Ambassador, we come in peace. If there are concerns, we are happy to discuss them in a proper diplomatic setting." "Some things require more than discussion, Commander." The Zaxri's eyes now turned a deep red. "Your species represents a destabilizing force in this sector. Your rate of advancement, your aggressive expansion of colonies, your military developments, they cannot be allowed to continue unchecked." Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. Linda's face went pale as she checked her readings. "Commander, we're receiving emergency signals from all our colonies. They're under attack." The tactical display lit up with dozens of red dots, Zaxri warships appearing near every human settlement. They had somehow hidden their ships near every human colony, waiting for this moment. "This was never about diplomacy," Peter said, his voice filled with shock. "They were stalling us while they positioned their fleet." Mary's training kicked in. Years of drills and preparation pushed aside her shock and anger. "Battle stations. Linda, send an emergency signal to Earth. Peter, get us out of here. All power to engines and shields." The U.S. Nightingale's engines flared to life as they turned away from the station. But the Zaxri weren't done talking. "You see, Commander Phillips," the alien's voice was almost gentle now, "we have studied your history. Your kind adapts too quickly, learns too fast. Given a century or two in the galactic community, you would upset the balance we have maintained for millennia. Better to stop the infection before it spreads. As the ship accelerated away from the station, Mary watched in horror as the tactical display showed more and more Zaxxry ships appearing throughout human space. They had planned this perfectly. A simultaneous strike at every human settlement. "This is Commander Mary Phillips to all Earth forces," she broadcast on all frequencies. "We are under attack. This is not a drill. The Zaxxry have launched a coordinated strike against all our colonies. All ships engage emergency protocols. Civilian vessels begin immediate evacuation procedures." Peter worked frantically at his console. "Commander, I'm analyzing their attack pattern. They must have been gathering intelligence on us for months. They know exactly where to hit us." The ship shuddered as a Zaxxry vessel fired a warning shot across their bow. Around them, the U.S. Starlight and U.S. Dawn moved into defensive positions. "They may know our positions," Mary said, her voice hard with determination, "but they don't know everything about us. Humanity didn't come this far to be pushed back into our own solar system." She turned to her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination on their faces. "Send word to all ships and colonies. Tell them to fight smart, not just hard. We may not have their technology or their numbers, but we have something they don't expect: the ability to adapt." The next few hours were chaos. Reports flooded in from across human space. Colonies under siege, ships engaged in desperate battles, civilian vessels trying to escape to safe zones. But among the bad news came signs of hope. Human ships, despite being outgunned, were already finding ways to fight back. The Space Council watched in silence as the conflict unfolded. Other species, either through fear or agreement with the Zaxxry, stayed out of the fight. But they all noticed something unexpected. The humans weren't breaking. Instead, with each passing hour, they were learning, adapting, finding new ways to fight back against their technologically superior enemy. As the U.S. Nightingale finally limped back to Earth space, Mary Phillips made a final log entry. "First Contact Day has become First Contact War. The Zaxxry thought they could eliminate us quickly, believing our rapid advancement made us a threat. They were right about one thing: we do learn quickly. But they've made a terrible mistake. They've given humanity something we've always excelled at: a reason to evolve, to adapt, to overcome. They wanted to stop our advancement. They've just guaranteed it will happen faster than ever before. The real question is, will the galaxy be ready for what we become?" As she finished her log, Mary looked out at Earth growing larger in their view screen. Behind their planet, hundreds of ships were already being prepared for war, and in laboratories and factories across human space, people were already working on ways to fight back. The Zaxxry had hoped to end humanity's story before it properly began. Instead, they had just written the first page of a very different book, one about humanity's evolution into something the galaxy had never seen before. 6 months into the war with the Zaxxry, Chief Engineer Susan Martinez hadn't slept properly in days. She stood in her lab aboard the space station Defender 1, staring at the holographic display of shield frequencies. Dark circles under her eyes showed her exhaustion, but there was a spark of excitement in her expression. "Run the simulation again," she told her computer. "This time, make the shield frequency change every 3 seconds instead of 5. On the screen, a simulated Zaxxry weapon hit the new shield design. Instead of breaking through as it had in previous tests, the beam scattered harmlessly across the surface. Susan's hand shook as she reached for her communicator. Martins to Admiral John Carter. "Sir, I think we've done it." 15 minutes later, Admiral Carter stood in her lab, watching the simulation with intense focus. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many defeats in the past months. But today, those eyes showed hope. "Explain it to me again, Susan, in simple terms." Susan pointed to the display. "The Zaxxry weapons work by matching our shield frequencies and punching through them. But what if our shields never stayed on one frequency long enough for their weapons to match it? It's like trying to hit a moving target that keeps changing its size and shape. The Admiral nodded slowly. Can we install this on our ships? Better than that. Susan smiled. We can upload it as a software update to every ship in the fleet. Give me 12 hours to write the program. Across the room, First Officer Amanda Kelly spoke up from where she had been quietly observing. Sir, if we combine this with the new battle formations I've been working on. She walked to the display and brought up a tactical map. The Zaxri always expect us to fight like they do, in rigid formations with strict rules. But what if we didn't? What if we fought like a swarm of angry bees instead of a line of soldiers? Admiral Carter watched as she demonstrated her idea with small holographic ships. The human vessels moved in unpredictable patterns, breaking apart and coming together again, never staying still long enough to be targeted effectively. With these new shields, Amanda continued, we could get close enough to do real damage. The Zaxri won't know how to handle ships that don't follow traditional space combat rules. The Admiral's face broke into its first real smile in months. Make it happen. Both of you. I want every ship captain trained in these new tactics within 2 weeks. As the Admiral left, Amanda turned to Susan. They thought we would break when they attacked us. Instead, they forced us to become something new. The next month showed just how right she was. The first battle using the new shields and tactics took place near the colony of New Hope. Lieutenant William Hayes led a squadron of small, fast ships against a Zaxri battle group that had been attacking the colony for weeks. The Zaxri commanders watched in confusion as the human ships approached in a scattered formation that made no sense to their tactical computers. They expected the humans to form up in traditional battle lines. Instead, the human ships moved like a school of fish, each one following complex patterns while staying connected to the whole. Attack Pattern Delta. William commanded his squadron. Remember your training. Don't think like a warship captain. Think like a dancer. The human ships darted between the much larger Zaxri vessels. Their new shields flickered with constantly changing colors as they absorbed and deflected enemy fire. The Zaxri ships, built for power and intimidation, couldn't turn fast enough to track the smaller human vessels. In the Space Council chamber, representatives from various species watched the battle recordings with growing interest. A Meldari observer turned to her colleague. They'd done in 6 months what takes most species decades, she said quietly. They're not just copying our technology. They're changing it, improving it, making it work in ways we never considered. Back on Earth, in the newly established War Innovation Center, Dr. Catherine Wells was already working on the next breakthrough. Her team had been studying Zaxri combat data, looking for patterns that others might have missed. Look at this, she told her assistant, pointing to a screen filled with combat data. Every time the Zaxri change tactics, it takes them at least 4 minutes to fully implement the new strategy. Their ships are powerful, but they're not flexible. She brought up another display showing the human brain scan during combat simulation. But we can make decisions and adapt in seconds if we combine human intuition with AI support systems. The result of her work would change space combat forever. The new AI combat systems she developed didn't try to control the ships. Instead, they enhanced the natural human ability to recognize patterns and make split-second decisions. Word of humanity's innovations spread through the galaxy. The Zaxri, who had expected a quick victory over a primitive species, found themselves facing an opponent that grew stronger with each defeat. Every time they destroyed a human ship, the survivors learned from it. Every time they won a battle, the humans came back with new tactics. In the Zaxri High Command, the military leadership met in emergency session. Admiral Kekstal, his scales turning pale with worry, addressed his colleagues. We anticipated every possible response to our attack, he said. Every response except this. They're not fighting according to any known doctrine. They're creating new ways of war faster than we can counter them. On the human colony of Aurora, Now protected by the new shield technology, Susan Martinez stood at a window watching ships practice the new combat maneuvers. Next to her, Amanda Kelly was working on even newer tactical innovations. "You know what the really interesting thing is?" Susan said, not looking away from the window. "Everything we're creating now, the shields, the tactics, the AI integration, it's all building on itself. Each innovation makes the next one possible." Amanda nodded, marking another note in her tactical manual. "We're not just learning to fight their way. We're creating our own way. And the best part, we're just getting started." In orbit above them, William Hayes' squadron was teaching the new tactics to fresh pilots. The Zaxri had thought humanity's rapid advancement was dangerous before. Now, under the pressure of war, that advancement was accelerating beyond anything they had feared. As the 6th month of war drew to a close, humanity had done more than just survive. They had evolved. The Zaxri's attempt to crush them had instead forged them into something new. And in the Grand Chamber of the Space Council, more and more species were beginning to wonder if perhaps humanity's rapid evolution wasn't a threat to the galaxy, but rather its next great step forward. Admiral Carter, reviewing the latest battle reports, summed it up in his personal log. "The Zaxri wanted to stop us from changing their perfectly ordered galaxy. Instead, they gave us the greatest motivation to change: survival. But we're not just surviving anymore. We're becoming something new, something that doesn't just adapt to the galaxy, but helps it adapt too. And we're not done evolving yet. Not by a long shot." 1 year into the war, Captain Benjamin Wright stood on the bridge of his ship, the U.S. Firestorm, looking at the holographic map of Zaxri supply lines. Red lines crisscrossed the star map, showing the enemy's supply routes. His crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for what would become known as Operation Wildfire. "Status report," Benjamin called out, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. "All ships report ready, Captain," replied Lieutenant Alice Cooper from her tactical station. "The new stealth systems are working perfectly. The Zaxri haven't detected any of our ships." Benjamin nodded, remembering how impossible this would have seemed just a few months ago. But that was before Dr. Catherine Wells and her team created the new stealth technology that made human ships nearly invisible to Zaxri sensors. "Send the signal to all ships," he ordered. "Operation Wildfire begins in 5 minutes." Throughout the fleet, 20 human ships waited in perfect silence. They were smaller than traditional warships, built for speed and stealth rather than power. Each one carried a crew trained in the new tactics that had evolved over the past year. "Remember," Benjamin spoke to the fleet, "we're not here to fight their way. We're here to fight our way. Hit fast, hit hard, and don't stay in one place long enough for them to respond." The operation began without warning. Human ships suddenly appeared among the Zaxri supply convoys, their new weapons cutting through the surprised cargo ships before the escorts could respond. Years of watching human warfare had taught the Zaxri to expect direct confrontation. They weren't prepared for this kind of attack. On the bridge of the Firestorm, Alice called out target after target. Supply ship destroyed in Sector 7. Fuel tanker disabled in Sector 3. Enemy escorts are trying to form up, but they can't track us long enough to get a lock. Benjamin watched as his fleet danced through the Zaxri formation. The enemy ships, large and powerful, turned slowly as they tried to protect their supply lines. But the human vessels were too quick, too unpredictable. They struck from unexpected angles, disappeared before the Zaxri could respond, then reappeared somewhere else entirely. In the Space Council chamber, representatives from various species watched the battle unfold. A Centaurian observer leaned forward, his crystalline form catching the light. "Remarkable," he whispered. "They're using the Zaxri's own assumptions against them. The Zaxri expect warfare to follow certain rules, so the humans simply don't follow those rules." Back on Earth, in the Strategic Command Center, Admiral John Carter watched the operation's progress with satisfaction. Next to him, Dr. Linda Martinez, who had helped develop the new stealth systems, explained what they were seeing to a group of alien observers who had secretly begun supporting Earth's war effort. The key was understanding that we didn't need to match Zaxri technology, she explained. We just needed to think differently about how to use our own technology. Their ships are powerful, but power isn't everything. The observers nodded, taking careful notes. More and more species had begun to see humanity not as a threat, but as a source of innovation. The way humans adapted and created new solutions was unlike anything they had seen before. On the firestorm, Benjamin was about to order the next phase of the attack when Alice suddenly called out, "Captain!" Multiple Zaxri warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They must have had a reserve fleet nearby. Benjamin remained calm as he assessed the new threat. The Zaxri reinforcements were exactly what they had hoped for. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Phase 2 begins now." What the Zaxri didn't know was that Operation Wildfire wasn't just about destroying supply lines. The supply raid was bait, designed to draw out the Zaxri's hidden reserve fleet. As the massive enemy warships moved to attack, 50 more human ships dropped their stealth fields and appeared behind them. Leading this second wave was Commander Patricia Young aboard the U.S. Lightning. Her ship carried the newest weapon in humanity's arsenal, the quantum disruption beam, designed to turn the Zaxri's powerful shields against them. "All ships, execute attack pattern Omega," Patricia commanded. "Remember your training. Don't think like they think. Don't fight like they fight." The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for years to come. The human fleet moved like a living thing, splitting apart and coming together in patterns that made no sense to traditional military doctrine. Small ships darted between the Zaxri vessels, their quantum beams causing the enemy shields to collapse in on themselves. In the Zaxri fleet, confusion turned to panic. Admiral Kextal watched in horror as his ship's greatest strength, their powerful shields, became a weakness. The quantum disruption beams created feedback loops in the shield systems, causing them to overload. How? He demanded of his tactical officer. How did they develop this technology so quickly? The answer, of course, was that humans hadn't developed the technology quickly. They had developed it differently. While the Zaxri focused on making their existing technology stronger, humans had looked for entirely new ways to approach the problem. As the battle reached its peak, Benjamin Wright coordinated with Patricia Young to spring the final trap. Their ships herded the Zaxri fleet into a position where they could neither retreat nor properly fight back. "Send the message," Benjamin ordered. The message was broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Zaxri language. "Your supply lines are cut. Your ships are trapped. Surrender now, and we will spare your crews." It was the first time in known history that a Zaxri fleet had been forced to surrender. As the enemy ships powered down their weapons, Benjamin made a final log entry. Operation Wildfire successful. But more important than the military victory is what it represents. We've proved that humanity doesn't need to match the Zaxri ship for ship or weapon for weapon. We just need to be ourselves. Adaptable, innovative, and willing to try what others think impossible. The news of the operation's success spread quickly through human space and beyond. In hidden meetings across the galaxy, more species began quietly offering support to Earth. They had watched humanity evolve from victims to innovators in just 1 year, and they wanted to be part of what would come next. In the aftermath of the battle, as human ships began the process of accepting the Zaxri surrender, Alice Cooper turned to her captain. "Sir," she said, "do you think they understand yet what they started when they attacked us?" Benjamin looked at the holographic display, where the Zaxri ships now floated powerless among the human fleet. "They're beginning to," he replied. "But I don't think anyone, not even us, fully understands what humanity is becoming. We're not just fighting a war anymore. We're evolving into something the galaxy has never seen before." As if to prove his point, even as they secured their victory, human scientists and engineers were already studying the battle data, looking for new ways to improve, adapt, and evolve. The war wasn't over, But its course had changed forever. Humanity had done more than just survive. They had learned how to thrive. Major Lisa Crawford stood in Earth's largest research facility, watching as hundreds of scientists and engineers worked on what they called Project Breakthrough. The massive room hummed with energy as quantum computers processed battle data from every engagement with the Zaxri. "Show me the latest simulation," she told the chief scientist, Dr. Alan Parker. Her dark eyes focused intently on the holographic display that appeared before them. Alan typed a few commands, and a 3D image of a space battle formed in the air. "Watch what happens when we apply the new quantum targeting system," he said, his voice excited despite his exhaustion. In the simulation, human ships fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself, hitting Zaxri vessels even when they tried to dodge. The quantum targeting system didn't just predict where enemy ships would be. It understood where they could be, making evasion nearly impossible. "It's ready for testing," Alan said. "We've installed it on the U.S. Stormfront for the first live combat trial." Lisa nodded, remembering how far they'd come. Just 18 months ago, humanity had been fighting for survival. Now they were creating technology that the Zaxri had never even imagined. On the bridge of the U.S. Stormfront, Commander Daniel Pierce prepared his crew for their first mission with the new system. "Remember," he told them, "this isn't just about testing new technology. We're showing the galaxy what humanity can do when pushed to evolve." His tactical officer, Ryan Matthews, looked up from his console. "Sir, long-range sensors detect 3 Zaxri battlecruisers heading toward the colony on Delta 9. They're using their standard attack formation." Daniel smiled. The Zaxri still hadn't learned. They still fought the same way they had for thousands of years. "Perfect," he said. "Let's show them something new." The Stormfront moved to intercept, its engines quiet thanks to the latest stealth systems. As they approached the Zaxri ships, Daniel gave the order they'd all been waiting for. "Activate quantum targeting system. All weapons, prepare to fire." The ship's computer came alive with new energy as the quantum system engaged. On their screens, the crew could see possibilities branching out like tree limbs, showing every possible move the enemy ships might make. When the Stormfront opened fire, the Zaxri ships tried to evade as they always did. But this time, the human weapons followed them, bending through space in ways that seemed to defy physics. 2 Zaxri ships were hit before they even realized what was happening. In the Space Council chamber, the alien representatives watched the battle with amazement. A Novalian diplomat turned to his colleague. "They've mastered quantum warfare in months," he whispered. "It took our species 3 centuries just to understand the basic principles." Back on Earth, Lisa Crawford was already working on the next evolution of human combat systems. She stood in a room full of neural interface devices, watching as pilots trained with the new technology. "The quantum targeting system is just the beginning," she told a group of military leaders. "We're combining it with AI and human intuition in ways no one has tried before." The pilots in their training pods moved their ships with thought alone, their minds linked directly to their vessels through the neural interfaces. The AI systems didn't control the ships. They enhanced the pilots' natural abilities, letting them react at quantum speeds. On the Stormfront, the battle was reaching its conclusion. The 3rd Zaxri ship, realizing it couldn't win, tried to retreat. But the quantum targeting system had already predicted this possibility. "Target their engine core," Daniel ordered. "Let's end this quickly." The shot curved through space, following the exact path the computer had predicted. The Zaxri ship's engines went dark, leaving it drifting in space. Ryan Matthews checked his readings. "Sir, we disabled their ship without causing any casualties. The quantum targeting system worked perfectly. It hit exactly where we aimed. No collateral damage." This was another way humanity had evolved. They'd learned to win battles without needless destruction. The quantum targeting system was so precise it could disable a ship without destroying it. In her lab, Technical Officer Kelly Bennett was already working on the next breakthrough. She had noticed something interesting in the quantum targeting data. patterns that suggested new ways of understanding space itself. "Look at this," she told her team, pointing to a complex diagram. "When we fire our weapons through quantum space, we're not just hitting targets. We're learning how the fabric of space-time works." Her discovery would lead to even more advances. Within weeks, human ships would be able to create micro-jumps through quantum space, moving instantly across short distances in ways that made traditional space combat obsolete. The Zaxri High Command met in emergency session, their usual confidence replaced by growing fear. Admiral Kextel's scales had turned almost white with stress. "They're not just matching our technology anymore," he told his superiors. "They're creating new technologies we don't even understand. Every time we adapt to one of their innovations, they've already moved on to the next one." One of the younger commanders spoke up. Perhaps we made a mistake in attacking them. We thought their rapid evolution was a threat to galactic stability. But what if it's actually the next step in galactic evolution?" Back on the Stormfront, Daniel Pierce wrote in his personal log as his crew helped secure the surrendered Zaxri vessel. "The quantum targeting system worked better than anyone expected. But the real breakthrough isn't the technology itself. It's what it represents. We're not just learning to fight in space anymore. We're learning to understand space itself in new ways." The Zaxri wanted to stop us from evolving. Instead, they forced us to evolve faster than anyone thought possible. In the research facility, Lisa Crawford watched as the next generation of human innovations took shape. The quantum targeting system was already being improved, combined with other technologies in ways that pushed the boundaries of what was possible. "You know what the really amazing thing is?" Ellen Parker said as they watched the new tests. "We're not just creating better weapons. We're creating better understanding. Every breakthrough teaches us something new about the universe." Lisa nodded. "And we're sharing what we learn with other species now. Those who were brave enough to support us in secret are now openly asking to work with us. We're not just changing humanity, we're changing the galaxy." As the day ended, reports came in from across human space. More colonies were safe. More ships were being equipped with the new technologies. More breakthroughs were being made. The quantum leap wasn't just in their technology. It was in humanity's understanding of their place in the galaxy. They weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to help the galaxy evolve beyond the rigid, stagnant system the Zaxri had tried so hard to preserve. 3 years after the first Zaxri attack, Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the U.S. Avalon, Earth's newest flagship. Through the main viewport, she could see hundreds of human ships gathering for what everyone hoped would be the final battle of the war. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Lieutenant Laura Bennett, her tactical officer. "The combined fleet is in position." Sarah nodded, taking a moment to appreciate how far they had come. The ships gathering around them weren't just warships. They were proof of humanity's evolution. Each one carried technologies that hadn't existed 3 years ago, created by humans who refused to accept defeat. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. When the channel was ready, she spoke to the largest human fleet ever assembled. "This is Admiral Mitchell. 3 years ago, the Zaxri tried to destroy us because they feared how quickly we could change. Today, we show them exactly what that change looks like." The fleet moved forward as one, using quantum space techniques that made their ships appear to flicker in and out of reality. Gone were the clumsy movements of their early space battles. Now, human ships danced through space like schools of fish in water. In the Zaxri home system, alarm signals blared as their sensors detected the approaching human fleet. The Zaxri had gathered their remaining forces for this final battle, positioning thousands of ships around their core worlds. "They're using the new quantum movement techniques," reported Captain George Turner from his position, leading the fast attack group. His ships were smaller than the others, designed to slip through enemy lines using the latest stealth technology. Sarah watched as the Zaxri fleet formed up in their traditional battle formation. Even after 3 years, they still fought the same way they always had. It was almost sad, she thought, how they couldn't break free from thousands of years of tradition. "Begin Phase 1, she ordered. "Captain Turner, you may proceed." George's ships vanished from normal space, using their quantum drives to reappear inside the Zaxxery formation. The enemy ships, caught by surprise, tried to turn and fight, but the human vessels were already gone, reappearing somewhere else. "Just like we practiced," George told his pilots. "Don't think in straight lines. Think in quantum possibilities." The battle quickly spread across the star system. Human ships used every innovation they had developed over 3 years of war. Quantum targeting systems let them hit enemies with perfect accuracy. Neural interfaces let pilots react at impossible speeds. AI systems predicted enemy movements before they happened. In the Space Council chamber, representatives from every species watched the battle unfold. The Council had finally voted to officially support Earth, but by then, humanity didn't need their help to win. They needed their help to make peace. "Look at how they move," said a Novellian observer. "It's like they've completely reinvented space combat." On the Avalon's bridge, Laura Bennett called out updates as they came in. "Zaxxery Center formation is breaking apart. Their commanders can't coordinate their responses fast enough to counter our quantum attacks." Sarah watched as the battle unfolded exactly as their simulations had predicted. The Zaxxery ships, powerful as they were, couldn't adapt to humanity's new ways of fighting. Every time they adjusted to one tactic, human ships would switch to something completely different. In his ship at the edge of the battle, George Turner led another strike against the enemy's command ships. "Remember," he told his pilots, "we're not here to destroy them. We're here to show them a better way." His ships darted through the Zaxxery fleet, using precision strikes to disable rather than destroy enemy vessels. This, too, was part of humanity's evolution. They had learned that victory didn't always mean destruction. On the Zaxxery homeworld, the High Command watched in disbelief as their fleet fell apart. Admiral Keckstall, his scales now permanently pale from stress, turned to his leaders. "We must surrender," he said quietly. "We cannot win against what they have become." Back on the Avalon, Sarah received the message she had been waiting for. "Admiral," Laura called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zaxxery High Command. They're offering unconditional surrender." A hush fell over the bridge. After 3 years of war, it seemed almost unreal that it could end so simply. "Send our response," Sarah ordered. "Tell them we accept their surrender and we're ready to begin peace talks." As the message was sent, she looked out at the battlefield. Human ships hung in space alongside disabled Zaxxery vessels, no longer enemies but proof of how far both species had come. In the following days, representatives from Earth met with the Zaxxery leadership in the Space Council chamber. Commander Mary Phillips, who had been there when the war started, stood before the council once again. "We do not come seeking revenge," she told them. "We come offering a new way forward. You feared our ability to change, but that change is exactly what the galaxy needs." The peace treaty that followed was unlike any the galaxy had seen. Earth didn't demand reparations or territory. Instead, they offered to share their innovations with any species willing to embrace change and growth. Technical Officer Ryan Matthews, who had helped develop many of their breakthrough technologies, worked with teams from various species to share what humanity had learned. "The real victory," he explained to a group of alien scientists, "isn't in the weapons we created or the battles we won. It's in proving that rapid evolution isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace." 1 month after the surrender, Sarah Mitchell stood in her office on Earth, looking at a hologram of the galaxy. The map now showed trading routes instead of battle lines, and research stations instead of military bases. "We did more than win a war," she told her staff. "We showed the galaxy a new way to grow, to adapt, to evolve." The Zaxxery tried to stop our evolution because they thought it would destabilize the galaxy. Instead, we proved that evolution is exactly what the galaxy needed. The Space Council created a new classification for humanity, Accelerated Evolution Species. But this time, it wasn't a warning label. It was a mark of respect. Other species began studying human history, trying to understand how they had achieved so much in so little time. As the sun set on Earth, Mary Phillips made one final log entry. 3 years ago, we were attacked because we changed too quickly. Now we're teaching others how to embrace change. The war forced us to evolve faster than anyone thought possible, but it also taught us something important. The true measure of evolution isn't just how much you can change, it's how much you can help others change with you. The galaxy will never be the same. And that's exactly as it should be.